Okay, CGCP 2253 by Chesthetica. White clearly ahead in material, but what to do here? What if rook to h7, pinning the knight? Then rook to a1, checkmate. So that would be kind of foolish. So white probably wants to play something like king to a6. And then here black might proceed with knight to b8 check. Notice how the white king is locked into the a file because the rook guards the b file. King to a5, maybe rook to a1 check, king to b5, rook captures bishop, knight f6, rook a1, knight d5 check. And white is winning, but it's not clear that the game is won. So keeping in mind that white has the threat of rook to a1 mate, is there actually a quick and decisive way for white to win this position? Let's look at the analysis. So there's only one forced mate here, a mate in 4. And the key move is bishop to d8, check. Did you see that one? The king only has one move because the c6 square is guarded by the a8 bishop. King to c8. And then white plays the quiet rook to e8. And if black plays maybe knight to c5, the bishop just moves to maybe either a5 or b6. With the discovered check, the king moves to d7 and knight to f6 checkmates while also defending the rook on e8. Now let's take a closer look here. Why doesn't rook to g8 work? Well, before that, rook to f8 obviously loses to knight captures f8 and suddenly the game is drawish. So why doesn't rook to g8 work? Because rook to a1 check, and then if bishop to a5, cross check, knight to f8, and if rook captures f8, king to d7, king to b6, rook to b1 check, and again white is winning, but the forced mate is gone. So why is it after rook to e8, rook to a1 doesn't work? Well, because bishop to a5, the cross check is actually a cross check mate here. The knight on d7, as you can see, blocks the king's escape square. The knight is not able to move and intervene like it did earlier. So if we look at black's possible responses from earlier, knight to c5, why is it bishop to maybe e7 doesn't work? Because king to d7, when replied with knight to f6 as before, the king can now escape to e6. But then you might say, alright, why not bishop to f6 obviously blocks the knight, why not to g5? Because king to d7, and if knight to f6, then king to c7. So the a5, d8 diagonal is critically important. So looking at this position again, do you think you would have seen the mate? Bishop to d8, king to c8, forced, the quiet rook to e8. Perhaps this move is even harder to spot. Whatever black plays, maybe even knight to b8, bishop to a5 or b6, king to d7, and followed by knight to f6, which simultaneously checkmates and defends the rook on e8. Until the next one.